Good morning, everyone. It is 10 a.m. here, so we are going to begin. Welcome to this year's SUNY Law Midwinter Online Conference. My name is Jill Locascio, and I am the librarian for Systems and Digital and Technical Services at the SUNY College of Optometry. I'm also the chair of the SUNY Law Midwinter Online Conference Planning Committee, and I'm going to be the moderator for today. I'd like to thank you all for attending this year's conference, Integration Station, the fast track to interoperability. We have 8 sessions today, all relating to that theme, and I'm sure I'm not alone in being really excited to hear what our presenters have in store for us. Before we jump in, there are a couple of housekeeping items I would like to get out of the way. Each session today will be 30 minutes. 20 minutes for the presentation itself, and then 10 minutes for Q&A. If you have a question for the presenters, please use the Q&A button to ask that question. Once we reach the Q&A portion of each session, I'll be relaying all of the questions that have been placed there to the presenters. If for some reason we run out of time, I'll be forwarding all the unasked questions to the presenters, and we will be sharing those answers out with everyone. Also, today's sessions are all going to be recorded, and we will be sharing links to, or the link to those recordings with everyone after the conference. They'll be posted to our website along with the slides from today's presentations and also those answers to the Q&A questions that we weren't able to get to live. So that will all be on our website, sunylaw.org/sunylaw-midwinter-2025. And you will be getting an email with a link to that website roughly 2 weeks or so post-conference at the email that you used to register for this webinar today. I would like to quickly thank my conference team members. Everyone put in a lot of hard work to make today happen. So I would just like to give thanks to Jennifer Jeffrey from SUNY Potsdam, Carrie Martin from SUNY Purchase, and Jessica McGivney from SUNY Farmingdale. I would also like to quickly plug our annual in-person conference that will be held this year on June 18th through the 20th at SUNY Delhi, which is a really beautiful campus in Western New York. I believe their conference team is currently accepting proposals, and we'll be doing that through the end of the month. So for more information, please go to sunylaw.org/sunylaw-conference. And with that, we are ready to jump into our first session of today, which is checking that we did it right, lessons learned from integrating LibGuides into LMSes, presented by Laura Harris and Logan Rath from SUNY Oswego and SUNY Brockport. Laura Harris is the Web Services and Distance Learning Librarian at SUNY Oswego, where she supports students in education. She served as the LibApps administrator for Oswego for several years and also worked at Springshare prior to joining the library faculty at SUNY Oswego. Dr. Logan Rath is a research and instruction librarian at SUNY Brockport, where he supports students in education, environmental science, nursing, and public health. He has also served as the LibApps administrator for Brockport for several years. Okay, Laura and Logan, I'm going to now stop my share. And
Okay.
whenever you
Now it will let me share mine. Yay. It yelled at me earlier, so you should be able to see the presentation. Is that correct?
looks good on my end, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would like to say hi to everyone from the beautiful Albany Marriott on Wolf Road in Colony. I'm here for the Public Good U conference, and it just worked out that this is where I'm presenting from. So I apologized for a headboard behind me, but that's what we're working with this morning. Okay, cut that part out of the posted recording, please. Okay.
All right. So we are going to talk to you about integrating LibGuides into learning management systems. And can you go to the next slide, Logan?
Yep.
So we're going to talk about the setup process first, and there are 3 parts to it. First is setting up the LibGuides LTI within your learning management system. Then is setting up course to guide matching. And then the last part is setting up your guides. After that, we'll talk about the data that Springshare provides about LTI usage and what we've learned from it. If you are from SUNY, then you're already aware of this, but for those of you who are not SUNY people, SUNY as a whole migrated to Brightspace from the Blackboard learning management system. A few years ago, we kind of did it in staggered terms. So like Oswego moved in 2022. And what we're going to do, we're going to focus primarily on the data that we have from Brightspace, but we have both used the LTI connection with Blackboard as well. So I think from there, we can go to the next slide. So LibGuides has two LTI tools. The first tool they call the manual tool, and that simply adds LibGuides as an option in the course building menu. It's really something that I think is more intended for use by instructors. The second tool is called the Auto Magic tool, and Logan and I feel this is more powerful. It allows the librarians to determine which guides are shown in which courses, and it doesn't require any intervention from instructors. Ideally, your LMS administrator would put a link in a visible space. Logan, can you go 2 slides forward? So this is what it looks like within the Oswego Brightspace. You can see the library resources is right in the course menu. And Logan tells me that Brockport is very similar.
It's even green.
Yeah.
Like it's that similar. We both are green campuses. Ours is just a couple links over.
Yeah. So now Logan is going to go through the process. We've got the steps for actually setting it up within the slides, but we think a live demo will be a little bit more fun. So take it away, Logan.
If you're watching the recording, you can pause this, screenshot it, whatever. I'm going to jump over and sort of show you how it works. So the biggest thing to know is you have to be on the LibApps drop down. You can't do this from LibGuides, which is not intuitive. And that is one of the biggest issues, right? And then under admin, you can go to the LTI tool builder. And now you can see we tried the single course one. We were going to move to 1.3. We're actually still working on version 1.0. It works the same. It was just, that's what moved over to Brightspace and it's still working. So they didn't update it because it's not broken. And then when you go to edit it, this is your LTI tool. This is where you have to give it a name. The type that you choose is the automatic matching. You give it a description. We disabled a custom header and footer so that like our library logo doesn't pop up on all of that. You can have that come up or not. We chose not to. We did enable custom CSS and JavaScript, but we're not using it. It's just enabled so that if we want to, we can. Then you have the automatic matching. And this is where all the questions are. And if you need help, reach out. We're here to help, right? We can be contacted. I know I'm going to pick on Fredonia. Hopefully there's someone from Fredonia here. We had just a quick 10-minute chat where we walked through how to set it up. So you give it a name. You want to connect it to your existing system. And then you have to choose your LTI parameter name. And you have a few. We decided based on what we needed, we went with context label. And I'm actually going to cheat and jump over to Brightspace and show you in Brightspace for a specific course where this might be. So I'm going to just jump into this course that I'm in and go into course admin and under course offering information. Course offering code, this is the context label. This is the context title, course offering name. So this is really hard to, there's nothing there I can match against to say that this is a nursing course. That exists under context label. So I needed to choose context label. And so I set that up. Then you set up your metadata name, and Laura will show you a little bit more about what this means later, but it doesn't matter what it is. It just has to be consistent. You could call this Smurf if you wanted to. And as long as you put the word Smurf in your LibGuides metadata, it will do the thing. We went with LTI because it was short. Oswego, I think you went with something that is actually readable, but that's there. We did course metadata matching because you could do that. You can also do this thing called manual entry via translation table if you are feeling masochistic on a given day. Because what that means is you're going to ask your administrators for a spreadsheet of every single Brightspace, Blackboard, LMS course. And then you are going to fill out a second column that will have the matching part, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I highly recommend just using the course metadata matching. Then we decided to redirect to the matching guider course. You can also display just a basic page. There's a tab to set up a basic page. And then if there's nothing, there's a default guide. If it can't match, just show a default. And then when none are found, just do this. So under library LTI page, you can set it up here. I do like to talk about the fact that there is a way to preview what it's going to look like. And so this is our basic page. This is that basic page that I chose from the drop downs on the previous link. So when I was here, based on what I choose here, that's what shows up here. And then we have this perimeter value. And what I can do there is I can go over and take this as an example of one of the things, one of the context labels, and I can put it in, and I can just straight launch it. And if I straight launch it, this is how it shows up. So when they click library resources in that nursing course, just to show you, ours shows up under more when you're a faculty member. When you're not, the students can see it. But see, same thing. Yay! But what you can do is you can also, on that page, hit debug mode, and it will show you this is what it's doing, right? It's going to take that placement, and it's going to say, here's my search term. Now, we set up a regular expression matching, and that means you just ask Springshare to do it, tell them what you need, and they will figure out what it needs to look like. You don't have to even send them this code. But what this basically means is look for 3 letters next to 3 numbers. And if you look at this code, that works, right? Because that's what our codes are. It's okay if you use less than 3, more than 3, variable. Regular expressions can do all of that as long as there's a way to pinpoint just that piece. And then the I means case insensitive. So it said it's going to look for nursing 725. And then it's going to look, it's got 3 different searches it can do, but it matched on NUR. But I could use, if I had a specific one, I could make a guide specifically for NUR 725 and make that my full metadata. And then it tells me the URL. It doesn't show me this down here. For some reason, it doesn't show the actual thing you see when you use debug mode. It just shows you the link. Okay. So that is a very quick way to say that's everything you have to do.
I just want to interject. That's not everything you have to do.
True.
So can you go back to that, not the slides, right, and scroll up and then click on the configuration tab?
Yes.
After you do the tool settings, you need to send this information to your learning management system administrator, because they take care of all this on the back end. And again, if you are from SUNY and your LMS admin is like, I don't know what to do with this, I can certainly connect you with our LMS admin, because it seemed like it was pretty easy for her. And obviously SUNY IT has done this before as well, so they shouldn't have any problem doing it again for other SUNY systems. So,
but there are directions that you can send them. You just have to be logged in, and I'm not logged in right now. Okay.
All right. So now I'm going to jump in. Logan showed one way that you can, could you jump back 2 slides? Sorry. So Logan showed a way that I did not actually know how to get the context label. So I want to tell you briefly how I got the context label from ours. Logan, can you go back to your system?
Yep.
And click on the placements tab? So after we had just done the original setup for connecting the LTI, the matching, the regex that Logan was talking about, that wasn't in place yet. So I didn't know what the context label stuff was. And frankly, I think Oswego switched to Brightspace before Brockport, so I couldn't ask Logan at that point yet. So this is how I found out the context label. You'll notice there's a context label tab, or I'm sorry, column. So that is basically that same information. So Logan, if you want to go back to the presentation.
Yep.
So the next part we want to do is sort of give Springshare that information about the context label. One more. So basically, the context label looks the same for Oswego and Brockport, which is really handy for us. You can see that we have 4 different colors here, and those are each representing a specific part. So the first part is obviously, well, maybe not obviously, the semester. So that indicates fall 2022. The next part is the campus. And if, again, you're not at SUNY, we are, almost all of the SUNY campuses are on the same Brightspace tenant, they call it. So this basically differentiates between the Oswego site and the Brockport site. And then the third section is one of the important sections, which is the course prefix and the course code. And then the last part is the course registration number, which is what, the students would enter when they're registering for a course. For our purposes, it also would help you differentiate between different sections of the same course. So basically, the ultimate goal here is to match your specific course sections to a corresponding course guide. And based on Logan's regex, I think they're not doing that at Brockport. We just started doing that at Oswego like a couple months ago. So if we have, for example, we have a lot of English 102, that's our basic composition class, and the professors often have different assignments from one another. So it could be that, I create one for the professors I'm working with, and a colleague creates another for the professors that she is working with. And we can each create a separate course guide that will show up for that specific course. So it is capable of doing that. I personally think that's not going to be something we use too often, but it is a possibility. Then the next option would be to match all sections of course to the same course guide, which I think we both are implementing that. And if there is no course guide, to match the courses to their corresponding subject guide, and then direct all others to a general page or guide. So for us here, we don't have an American Sign Language guide, and I think we offer like 2 courses in American Sign Language, so it's not really like a program or a major. So we don't have like liaison for that or anything like that. So for that, those courses and similar courses, it would just direct you to, for us, a general research guide. So basically, you need to be able to look at your course context label and figure out what is the important part. For us, it is the last 2 parts. For Logan, it's just, or for Brockport, it's just that third section. So all you need to do really is email Springshare, ask them to set up the regex, they'll know what that means, and explain your context label. And if you have any trouble parsing that out, hopefully either we can help you or your learning management system administrator can help you.
Yeah, and I want to add to there, one of the important pieces to know that I just now am remembering, because it's been so long, is that once you set up this regex match, it still does a backward step process. So at Oswego, I imagine your regex would pull SPE 304 dash 5 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So what it'll do is if it doesn't find a guide that's matched on 5 numbers, it'll look for 4 numbers, and then 3 numbers, and then 2 numbers, and then 1 number. Uh, so
Actually, I can tell you it doesn't.
it doesn't. Okay, yours is very
No.
specific then.
Yeah, because we had some problems a little while back. This was back in 2023. We're going to talk about this later, actually. But what Logan is describing is that they're doing the matching from the end of the string. So it would be starting with the 6. And in order to get ours to work the way we wanted it to, it actually starts with the 2022 part. So
Okay. Great. Yeah. So ours looks at just that EDI 413 and says, if I can't find EDI 413, I'm going to find EDI 41. And so eventually that's why that nursing guide, even though it's sent NUR 725, matches on NUR because that's the first variable it could find. So I can put one metadata piece on my guide for all NUR courses. And then I feel the need to state that this whole regular expression thing came up because I had a fun conversation with Slavin, the chief Springy, because it didn't do this. When they first unveiled the tool, it only did the whole string. And I had posted on, back then it was Twitter, like when Springshare one-ups you by releasing an update to their product. And he saw it, we reached out, and now we have regex because that was the issue, that we couldn't use their product because it would do that. And he literally had his coders fix it overnight. It was amazing. Okay.
yeah, although I don't work for Springshare anymore, they hold a nice place in my heart because of that. What we found is that actually, and I asked Springshare about this earlier this week, only 99 customers are actually using the regex, and there are roughly 2,600 LibGuides CMS customers. And I just realized we forgot to mention that the LTI is only available with the LibGuides CMS subscription. If you have just sort of plain LibGuides, you will not be able to do all this awesomeness. So the last part of the setup is something you have to do for all your guides, or at least all the ones that you want matched. And we have a screenshot here. Logan, do you think you could switch over to your system so we can see it a little bit clearer?
Yeah.
So now we are going into LibGuides.
Yeah. But we have LibGuide CMS.
Right.
Pay no attention to the ugliness when it looks behind the scenes because of how it looks, right? So you go over to the cog and you go to guide metadata, and then you have custom metadata. And this is where I enter in, I would just add a new record, add LTI, and then add in that value. So this is specific for NUR 651, so I added that value. On the general nursing guide, it just says NUR. So if I hop over to this one, this is going to look fun because this has some Blackboard stuff that still hasn't likely been cleaned up. Oh, no, I did clean it up. Yay. Nope, it's here. So in Blackboard, they used to have merged course IDs. And so every time a course was merged, I had to add a different LTI. So this is several semesters of adding those. But you can see at the top, just EDI, and then like NAS 518 was an education course, but taught under sciences, but it was science education. So I was able to add that in. And then when we get to the bottom, educational administration uses the same guide. So I added that in. But there's no rule on the number. There's no limit.
Yeah. Now, you'll notice Logan has LTI for that second column, and that is always going to match whatever you entered as the LibGuides metadata name. When he was talking about it earlier, he mentioned it can be anything. Ours is LG context title, and honestly, I don't remember why we came up with that because this was back in like 2016. So yeah, it's LG context title for us. But yeah, as long as you use whatever you set up, that's all you need to do. So And apparently I'm wrong. You don't have to have the public checkbox marked, because I noticed Logan doesn't.
Oh
So
yeah, we don't. I
yeah.
don't quite know what that public checkbox does.
Well, apparently it makes it the name and value
Oh,
available
for
to
search
search
engines.
engines and data harvesting services. So this is the setup process. Personally, I love using this guide metadata thing because we use the same LibGuides metadata name in Blackboard and Brightspace. We did not have to update this when we moved to from Blackboard to Brightspace, which was wonderful. It saved me a whole lot of work. And the other thing, Logan was showing you that how you can do that manual translation thing earlier and how they had done that. This is so much easier because it's kind of a set it and forget it. I don't have to, I have courses that I teach every semester. I don't have to go in and update this semester. I put metadata in there once and it's good to go. And unless I like completely delete the guide and start from scratch, that's really all I need to do. I do have a Google Doc with some short instructions for my colleagues if they want to create a new course guide on how, what metadata they need to put in. And that's really all the sort of maintenance we have to do. Like I said, it's really set it and forget it and great. I think it's a lot of payoff for not too much work. It is kind of tedious to set it up the first time, but like I said, I set this up in like 2016 and have really not had to touch it since then. So it's like 9 years later.
And worst case scenario is you make a new guide, you go in to teach the guide and you forgot the metadata. You can quickly log in and it takes 5 seconds once you're logged in to add that new LTI. And the way the link in the LMS works is it checks that placement stuff every time. So you update it and then it magically works. There's no like, I have to put a ticket in, you just do it and it's done.
So now we're going to talk to you about getting your data. All the data is going to be under the placements tab. And really, we strongly recommend that you choose the export all records option so that you can, it will download, one of the options is comma separated value, CSV, which you can open in Excel. And that's where the fun starts in Excel. You can do all sorts of fun formulas. So some of the problems we encountered, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but we found when I started looking at the placement data back in summer 2023, I noticed that we had some history guides, for example, that were going to our general guide, and they shouldn't have been going to course guides, but we had like an American history guide and like a European history guide. And so they should have been going to that, the appropriate guides, and they were not. So I emailed Springshare and I'm like, do you know why this isn't working? I'm like, this guide or this course should go to this guide. And they told me it was because they were doing the matching from the end of the context label string. So what they did is they changed it to search from the beginning of the string. So that worked for us. And then the other problem, which is not so much a problem, this isn't necessary, but as I was saying, I wanted us to be able to match different guides to different sections of the same course. So Springshare just updated the regex for us and said, okay, we'll make sure to check that course registration number, that fourth section of the context label. So in both cases, it was pretty simple. I explained the problem to Springshare and they're like, oh yeah, we just need to change the way the regex matching works. And they're able to fix it usually within a few days. So those are some of the problems we had. Logan, you want to talk about Brockport?
Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to start typing them in the Q&A. So we had the same issue, is that certain guides went to the default guides. And one of the things we realized is that Brockport likes to use different course codes for graduate level. So like social work, if you're a graduate social work student, you take SWK courses instead of SWO courses. So we had to go in and add. So checking that placements data is crucial. And then when we originally set this up, we decided to make the default guide for online students. But we realized that way more than our online students were clicking in. So we have updated it to be a more general usage page.
So now for the good data. Overall, we had about 9,400 hits to LibGuides from Brightspace in 2024, and it was about 11,100 in 2023. So calculating this against our overall statistics, and hits to our guides in those years, it came to about 8% of our traffic, which to me doesn't seem like a huge amount. But then when you look at those numbers and say, hey, we got almost, or in the case of 2023, we got over 10,000 additional hits to our guides because of this matching. I feel like that's a lot more impactful.
Yeah, and our numbers were similar. I didn't pull our 2023 numbers, but it was about 8,800 hits to LibGuides from Brightspace. And so it equated to be just under 10%. We did also find when I started looking in there that when students were going through orientation or going into their major group for like nursing majors, they would click on library resources to see what's there. So that gives us an idea of some place to go now that we have this new data.
So as we mentioned earlier, you can do some fancy stuff in Excel, and we said this is good question mark because I think, at least for me, I haven't figured out whether this is good or bad yet. But you can use some ifs formulas, and again, I'm happy to help with that if you want to do some exploring. But from the screenshot below, I don't know how well you can see the numbers, but let's see, CRJ 401 was, it's not my, 54 hits to the criminal justice guide came from CRJ 401. So that's the course that drove the most traffic to that guide. So that could be something that's useful information to the liaison. She might say, oh, I'm not doing instruction in that guide, or maybe she already is doing instruction in that course, and that's why we're getting so many hits. And I will say there are two classes. One class I teach several sections of, and another colleague teaches several sections of, and those both do have very high LTI numbers because we talk it up. So that wraps up our presentation, and we are ready to take on questions.
Yeah, so I went through, I could quickly answer 3 of the questions and I just typed those answers in out. But someone here wants to see the Brightspace main page. And so when I go over here for Brockport, this is our Brightspace main page. It doesn't have much. It has courses below and it has a different course guide up here. When you go into a specific course, and I'm just going to go into this nursing course, and I'll view it as a student so that you can see. So this is what it looks like for a student. If I zoom out a little so that you can see it, our library resources are over here. Laura's, yours are more in the middle because your people have put several of this stuff into a drop down. So that's what that one looks like. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask the question. So
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't know you were continuing. Yeah. So anyway, where did you export the LTI usage stats from?
So let's see. Over here into the guides, go to libapps, and then go to admin, LTI tool builder, go into the tool that you're using, and then placements. And then this is where you can export them.
One thing I noticed when Logan was showing things, we are using the 1.3 tool and they're using the 1.0 tool. And apparently that test that under the LTI page, where you can enter in that stuff, actually, never mind, sorry.
If we wanted to see, because we did go through setting it up. Yeah, it looks the same, but we haven't set anything up yet.
Mm-hmm.
Except we got our page already, but not really. Yes, redirect and then none, none.
Okay, well, I think that is about all the time we have now. Thank you both very much for showing that to all of us. And with that, we will move on to our next presentation.